jump a little higher to clear the ground. Every shadow of every girl, every time I turn around, I swear it's her. I second guess my every move. I hold my breath in case I run into you. Oh, I just can't look. I can't bear the thought of seeing you with someone new. Oh, I swear I'm almost over you. And sometimes I find I switch off and I start to drive streets that no longer are my own. I keep driving your way home. You live across the park from me in a place that steers a tiptoe view of the sea. Your sister came back home to stay the day I packed my bags and went away. So I found a room in a leafy street with a stranger and a traveler who both welcomed me. I try and remember my new way home, but habit sometimes steers me down your road. Just can't love, I can't bear the thought of seeing you with someone new. Oh, I swear I'm almost over you. Sometimes I find I switch off and I start to drive streets that no longer are my own. I keep driving your way home. And the day breaks slowly, I know I can't be this lonely for that long. Got to grow up, show me how it's done. 'Cause baby, I've been trying with no luck. Oh, just can't love. I can't bear the thought of seeing you with someone new. Oh, I swear I'm almost over you. Sometimes I find I switch off and I start to drive streets that no longer are my own. Oh, I just can't look. I can't bear the thought of seeing you with someone new. Oh, I swear I'm almost over you. Sometimes I find I switch off and I start to drive streets that no longer are my own. I keep driving your way home.
This is Val Von Torn of Metatron Power and Light. You're listening to Gary Anderson and Night Dreams Talk Radio.
The strange news in brief. I'm Guy Ticker. What if Bigfoot was a lesbian? Now, picture Sasquatch, yes, that hairy hominid rumored to be lurking in the lush woods of the Pacific Northwest. You've likely imagined a him, but what if Bigfoot were a woman? I'm Guy Ticker. The Strange News is brought to you by Night Dreams Talk Radio Network. Do you have a strange story? Contact us at nightdreamstalkradio.com. You are listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio Network, the home of Night Dreams Talk Radio, with Gary Anderson, syndicated worldwide. Paranormal Talk Radio, like you remember.
Well, here it is already. Well, Friday, the 27th of January. Boy, this month went by so fast. Well, you can file your taxes today if you haven't. I don't know. It's going to be rather interesting. They're saying you're not going to get as much money this year back as a tax refund. You know, that is really scary. Well, the Curse of the Oak Island team believes they have found the gold finally. After all these years, so many people digging on that poor little island, and now they think they maybe have struck gold. You know, JC, I would love to see it, because how many people have perished looking for it? How many have went bust, spending all their fortune trying to find the gold?
Oh, there's been at least 6 people I know of that have died. And, you know, I've been watching them people trying to get that for 10 years. And there's been a lot of famous people for hundreds of years trying to get that.
Oh, yeah, going even back in the 50s, there was one guy who lost his life, you know, as it filled up with water. Well, researchers are now starting to say that Earth is starting to spin backwards.
Yes. It not only stopped, but now it's going backwards. I was reading about that today. Listen, I don't think that would end well if it keeps going like this.
I don't know. It is strange. Of course, scientists say that has happened a couple times through the centuries, but I don't know. It's kind of weird. Did you, like at 1 o'clock in the morning, get that funny feeling when you got up? You actually wanted to go back to bed because everything is in reverse? I don't know.
Yeah, I was like, what's going on here? It's time to get up. I'm going backwards. Yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe time will go backwards. So now I won't be 71 by tomorrow. I might only be, back at 70. And then, next year I'll be back at 69, which 69 is my favorite number. You know that.
Yeah, well, when you get 77, you get 8 more.
Yeah, and when you're 71, too, 69 is hard to do. The time traveler 2858 claims human bones will be found this year on Mars.
Oh, I've been hearing that several people. Matter of fact, some people think they've already found it.
I don't know. Eggs. You ready for this? Because of the bird flu, egg prices have gone really crazy depending on where you're at. But certain parts of this country, eggs are up to $18 a dozen. And the reason why is because they've had to destroy so many birds because of the bird flu. So by killing some of these, or a lot of them, it's caused a shortage now on eggs. So when anything gets short, well, guess what? $18 a dozen.
$18 a dozen. That's like well over $1.50 or so for an egg, one egg.
Well, I still have some Potter egg. You know what? I can live with that.
Oh, boy.
Have you ever ate potted eggs?
No, thank you.
Well, you should join the Army.
No.
You'll find out what potted eggs sound like.
Yeah, that doesn't even sound appetizing. No. Mm-mm.
Well, a bunch of people on an airliner said they saw a UFO, and it had a crazy shape, and it was shape-shifting, and it was flying right off the wing of a passenger craft.
Yeah, yes. Last 2-3 years, Gary, I know I personally have seen 3 or 4 actually videos of the same scenario, passengers on a plane and this shape-shifting UFOs. Very intriguing.
Well, I don't know. What do you think about Bigfoot? There's lesbian Bigfoots out there.
Well, I guess it's only part of the course. That one there, that hit me blindside. I wasn't expecting that in that one, but
yeah. Good thing you weren't drinking anything when you heard that, huh?
No, because the camera would be wet because it'd be like.
Well, guess what? Scientists are building a working tractor beam that actually can pull things towards it in space.
Oh, that sounds like something right out of Star Trek right there with the old tractor beam. You know what? Supposedly Nikola Tesla had that kind of technology a long time ago.
Now, a lot of things we had a long time ago, because, like, look at the pyramids.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's true. Look at that. I don't even think, I swear, there's no way they built them with copper tools.
No, or brass.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you know, monkey-like animals once lived in the Antarctic, according to fossils that they found.
Well, you know what? Some of these land masses were more closer to other land masses connected. I don't know how far back those fossils go, but I don't doubt it. I think there's a lot of things to be found in Antarctica.
Oh, yeah. Who do we have on chat?
Oh, listen, we've got Jody on there. We've got Tom from Metatron Power and Light. We've got Barb. We've got Kim. I don't know. I might have missed somebody, but I know those are on there for sure.
Yeah, well, Mother Scorpion.
So that's Jody.
Yeah, Jody. I keep forgetting that. I know. What's your name again? Oh, it's JC.
Yes.
Yes. Well, scientists found a dinosaur face complete with a skin.
That is amazing because, listen, these dinosaurs go back at least 60 million years?
Yeah, well, I was sure wouldn't somebody like to dig up in the cemetery, 60 million years from now and find my face.
I think about that all the time, especially when...
Oh, you think about them digging up my face?
Yes, all the time.
Okay.
No, I usually think about them finding, like archaeologists, they dig up these old tombs that are 1,000, 2,000 years old. I'm thinking, what's going to happen to us someday? They'll be digging us up and be like, oh, look at this guy. He's wearing weird clothes.
Yeah, this is the thought of it, buddy scientist someday, if we're even here, digging you up and saying, gee, I wonder what type of food they ate. What type of life did they lead? Well, it had to be kind of weird because look at this type of stuff. It doesn't disintegrate. Naturally, that is going to be your plastic bottles.
Well, some people, they get put away in the old stainless steel coffins. I don't know. Those things might last a while.
Well, did you hear about that nursing school? Yes, you did, because I told you all about it yesterday. In Florida, there's a nursing school. Now, they were accredited, but, they figured to save money, right? They just would sell the diplomas for $17,000 to $20,000 for the diploma and certify them as, being capable of being a RN. And then with that credentials, they just go take the state exam, which wasn't that really hard. And then they become a registered nurse. Now, would you like to be in an ER, right? You just got hit in a horrible traffic accident, right? And you got these nurses working on you that know about as much as you do about medical problems.
But I may know more. That's even scarier. But yeah, listen, that's a scenario that I wonder how many people have died because of lack of knowledge. That's a scary thing, honestly, Gary.
Well, they've already arrested dozens and dozens of people. All the people who were involved in the school have all been arrested by the FBI. But just think about it. Here's a nursing school. How many other ones? How many other different schools out there they issue fake diplomas? I call them fake, because you're buying the diploma. But there are a accredited school, but hey, why not sell it for $17,000 to $20,000 and have no expense other than the paper that they give the certificate to?
Yeah, and listen, there's somebody at the top of that pyramid that is collecting the bulk of that money. They really ought to be put away, I'm telling you.
Yeah, how about doctors, lawyers? Okay, yeah. Hey, you went to law school, you got your diploma, right? Then you just go take the bar exam.
Yeah, like when you was telling me that, remember I told you there were certain stores you could buy these things and just fill in what you needed to fill in.
Yeah, but that again, if you bought those, okay, and somebody calls up a check on it, they'll say, hey, that's fake. With no record of it. But if you do it through accredited school and they do it, they go, yeah, that JC did become a, ordained minister in such and such faith. That's what I'm saying. It's scary that this type of stuff has been going on.
That's just what we found out. Like you said, imagine how many other ones and how long this has been going on, Gary.
Yeah. It's been going on a long freaking time. I'll tell you that. Anyway, I'm an ordained minister. I can't even remember back in the early 80s of a church. I became a ordained minister. I sent my $9.95 and became ordained. You want me to do your wedding for you? I don't know how legal it would be. Anyway, Dr. Miller was on the show Sunday, and he was talking about, all this weird stuff. And towards the end of the conversation, right, he went off about the Oregon and California coast, dropping off to the sea. I just started thinking, okay, if the earth has stopped, the mantle in the earth has stopped the movement, or as some scientists say, it's reversing, or it has reversed because they really don't know at this point. Maybe the earthquake they just had off of Malibu coast in California, 4.2, was maybe some of it. Maybe we're going to start seeing volcanoes going off.
Listen, anything could act as a catalyst for all that stuff, especially the ring of fire up on the Pacific. But, you would think something spinning like that, the inertia of it stopping one direction, going the other direction would cause a lot of havoc.
Oh, yeah. Well, we have William that just joined chat, too, tonight when we have our guests on. And we're going to be talking about, this famous experiment that happened in the mid-50s. Well, actually not in the 50s. I was thinking about the book that was wrote about it in the 50s back in 1943. But yes, it's going to be a great show here tonight. And you can ask questions through chat, and we'll ask the guest some of those questions that you asked. A massive void has been found in the Great Pyramid.
Yeah, I heard something about that, but I tell you what, that's another place. There's a lot of undiscovered stuff inside. You know how big that pyramid is? There's hidden chambers and stuff we haven't even found yet.
Well, we had somebody on recently. They said that the pharaohs is the ones that had it built. Logically, there's no way that could be built in a pharaoh's lifetime with the equipment they had. Come on, we know that something did it. And with technology we don't even know about. Just like I said last week on the show, the concrete that the Romans made is the strongest concrete it was ever made. And it just was recently they figured out how it was made. They've been trying to figure out how to make that concrete, forever. And now they finally figured out the formula, how they made it. But, just think about the pyramids. If we can find out how the blocks were cut, how they were transported. I don't buy a canal was dug through the sand and filled with water because that's a big sponge, right?
Quicksand.
Yeah. I don't see how they could have transported, let alone cut it with, like you mentioned, brass and copper tools.
Yeah. And listen, I don't believe those pyramids were built as tombs. I believe they were built for something else, way more advanced. Because think about it, you're going to build a tomb, you're not going to have it so intricate and have so much math involved. And then look at the labor and all the 20 to 100 ton stones. Some of them granite. You ever try to cut granite with hardened steel or diamonds, much less a copper chisel?
Yeah, well, Flow Industries can't do it, and they're the ones that perfected high-powered, cutting with water. But, again, you think about it, the pharaohs, by then, whoever created those pyramids have vanished. They were long gone. And then, the Egyptians, the pharaohs, and whatever figured, this would be a good place to put my body to go to the afterlife. And they probably thought it was about the afterlife because they still maybe had stories going around at that time of that, it was connected to them out there. Well, you know what? Scientists are worried about alien probes probing our world.
I thought you were going to say something else, but yeah.
When's the last time you've been over and been probed?
I do not.
You can try that tomorrow.
But yes, that's a big theory now. Because think about it, we put out probes, but here's the other thing: we're thinking, these aliens are thinking like we think. So who knows?
I don't know, but can you imagine? You're a woman. And 9 years ago, your husband died. And you go into a restaurant and you see your husband with another woman.
Uh-oh.
Now, did he die? Is that a double? Are you just imagining you see your husband and it's not your husband? Or did your husband pull the magic trick and disappeared and got caught?
Or all the above. I mean, wow, that's a heck of a scenario. Tell me more.
I can't tell you anymore. That's all it says.
Okay.
I'm really upset, and you should be upset. Everybody should be upset. The Treasury is going to come out with a new $100 bill.
Oh.
Okay, and it's going to come out shortly. And the $100 bill is going to have Walt Disney on it. Now, what does Walt Disney have to do with the founding of our country?
I don't know. Do you really think that's true? I don't think
It is true. I verified it.
Because that's almost blasphemy in a certain world. That's just that's hard
it is absolutely true. They're going to do it because of the 100-year centennial of Disneyland.
I tell you, I don't. I just, like you say, I don't agree with it, but I will accept all that is given this way.
Monopoly money. That's what it is.
Yeah, exactly. Monopoly money. I don't know. That's
Benjamin
just so
Franklin won't be on it anymore. Now, this is a limited edition. I don't know how many they're going to do, for how long they're going to do it for, but they're going to take Benjamin Franklin off. And then, what are they going to do? Put Marilyn Monroe on? How about Debbie Does Dallas? They could put her picture on it, too.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
How about William Shatner?
Yeah. Wasn't he the oldest guy in space so far?
He didn't go to space. He was about that far from going to space.
Well, you know what I mean, up there.
Sulo, has been criticizing Shatner about this on the news media. He goes, that old man never went to space, and he's lying about it.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. I love it.
Oh, yeah. Well, have you had anything exciting happen to you this week, JC?
Oh, it's just bundles of excitement. I got caught in a whiteout storm yesterday, and about 20 minutes got an inch of snow. That was bizarre.
Yeah.
That was about...
Well, 1 inch is better than 12 inches.
Well, I guess
that's what she... Well, I don't know. It just depends.
Depends on what end of the ruler you're on.
Yeah, it does. Because, 12 inches, versus 1 inch, it could really, cause a problem.
Yeah, it could. Yeah, it sure could.
Yeah. Well, out there. Hey, Rory just came on. Hi, Rory. How are you doing? I saw what you did the other night through my magic TV set that I got from the late J.C. Patches.
And we also got Phil and William that joined the chat recently.
Oh, yeah. Tonight. So we're going to have a great show here tonight. We're going to talk about what?
We're going to talk about the Philadelphia experiment. Let me tell you, I've been hearing about that since I was a young, so I'm excited.
Well, we'll be back in a couple minutes with our guest. You are listening to what? I'm not sure. Night Dreams. And you can find us at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. Check our website. It's been totally updated. In the next few days, I'm going to put a list about 13, 14 radio stations you can also find us on our website. A lot of stuff we're doing. So, well, stay tuned. And I hope you also like the strange news that we are putting out too.
What's there to hold in the light of this moon? My mind keeps searching, but my heart decides. Thoughts can be cruel, they're not mine to own. The space unravels when you let go. What's yours, it ain't mine, that energy goes today. The feather in the fire will blow it home your way. Moon mother, open your arms. Moon mother, this magic's just begun. Moon mother, reach for my heart so I can feel your essence in me. How to unfold when this knot is so tight. Each step is chosen to reveal the light. Days left wondering, am I back here again? The shadow inside, waking your soul. What's mine is lost to time, our home is in the space. The bird he walks the line, just use those wings and rise. Moon mother, open your eyes. Moon mother, this magic's just begun. of the vibration. You can feel it in your feet.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet, I ask you, is not an alien force already among us?
Night Dreams brings on the night worldwide. Did you know you can find us on your favorite app? And now you can watch us live on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and give us a thumbs up. And now, here's Gary.
And here I am. Boy, I can't wait to talk to our guest tonight about one subject. Is that folklore or did it really happen? James, you know, it's going to be a great show.
It is going to be a great show. I'm really looking forward to it. I've been hearing so much for years about this.
Oh, yeah. My friend Art Bell, you know, I tell you, it was one of his favorite subjects on his show. Well, who is our guest tonight and what can you tell the listeners about him?
Our guest, Dr. Bruce Goldberg, holds a BA degree in biology and chemistry. He is also a doctor of dental surgery from the University of Maryland School of Dentistry. He is the author of 21 best-selling and award-winning books, and he has been on many well-known television programs over the years.
Well, Doctor, welcome to our show. How are you doing tonight?
I am doing fine. This is one of my favorite topics, time travel, is how I cut my teeth on, so to speak, in the field. So we're going to have a lot of fun tonight. By the way, for the benefits of your audience, we're going to go into a lot of details about the Philadelphia experiment and time travel in general. I write about this in one of my books, and specifically Time Travelers from Our Future. So if they're interested in some of the details and some of the case histories, that would be definitely a book I would recommend. And I would also like to make an offer for your audience. If they're interested in the Time Travels from Our Future book, if they order it from my site, my homepage, and not from Amazon or any other bookstore, I will give them a free CD called Exploring the Fifth Dimension, which will allow them to go into hypnosis and go into the fifth dimension and explore time travel themselves.
Very interesting. You know, Michio Kaku, last time he was on our show, he said that we're very close to cracking the fifth dimension. And if that happens, portals and time and all that stuff would be real.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you know, you actually can crack the fifth dimension now. The fifth dimension is, think of it as an out-of-body experience when people go into their dream levels at night, the REM cycle, we call that on a neurological level. They're actually, not only are they dreaming, but their soul leaves the body, goes into a spiritual body, let's say the astral body for the astral plane, and they're in the fifth dimension. So you dream for 3 hours a night. You don't remember them, but trust me, all the research is clear for the last 70 years. You dream for 3 hours a night, and when you're dreaming, you're actually going out of the body into the fifth dimension. What my techniques is trying to train the person so they can be more in control of that experience rather than just having a dream that you don't know about and you're just responding. You know, you might say sometimes there's a victim. Here you can be more in control. So that's where that defines it. And the CD, the fifth dimensional travel that goes along with, if they order the Time Travels from Our Future book or my Exploring the Fifth Dimension book, that one will apply too. That will guide them into a natural hypnotic level, which is like a daydream. It's what it is. And it will guide them into the fifth dimension, all perfectly safe. There are spiritual protection techniques, which you don't even need, but they're on there anyway. So it's a lot of fun, and that's how I was able to document and corroborate the information that my patients have told me about time travelers and about time travelers, about ETs that are around the universe. All that can be done by entering into the fifth dimension.
Well, you know, going into the fifth dimension, going into these dreams, how do we know that when we're dreaming, that isn't really reality and what we're doing right now is the dream?
Okay, well, no, that's a good point. There was a Chinese philosopher about the 3rd century, and he came up with a very interesting expression. Remember, this was like 1800 years ago. He said, I had a dream I was a butterfly last night, so how do I know that I wasn't the butterfly dreaming I'm a human now rather than the other way around? The answer is you won't know that until you die, cross into spirit, enter into the fifth dimension, and then reincarnate. And then you're going to find the answers that will be given to you by your higher self. So right now it's strictly philosophy and speculation. But there are ways to document it. By the way we can document fifth dimensional mentality is back in New York City in the 1960s and 70s, two researchers named Krippner and Older, they did research on what we call age progression using dream levels. People would predict like horse racing results, baseball playoff results, things like that. And there was a certain an air crashes, things like that. And they had a very interesting track record of these people not predicting it, but actually getting it from the fifth dimension. So we know the fifth dimension is real. There's mathematical equations and quantum mechanics to demonstrate that. The theory of relativity gives us that. From 1905 and 1915 from Einstein. So there really isn't a lot of argument about the fifth dimension. The only question is how many dimensions are there? According to the string theory and quantum physicists, there are as many as 26 dimensions. So it gets a little complicated.
Oh, it does. In fact, we were talking about string theory here on Sunday, and I tell you, they can get really complicated. Especially
there are 5 different string theories, and Edward Whitten from his research from Princeton University, which is what I call the time travel university in this country. Anyway, he combined the 5 string theories into the M theory with 11 dimensions. So that is now more of the current theory, because when you have 5 different string theories, then it's not a good idea, because if there's no agreement, right? There are 5 different theories, right? So the M theory does combine them. They're trying to get the theory of everything. They can't yet, because they can't equate quantum mechanics, the subatomic world, to the macroscopic world of general relativity and gravity. So that's what they've been working on for the last 80 years. So we're still a ways from it. But that's the M theory is going to be a nice adjunct or speed up the process of getting into the theory of everything. But let's talk a little bit about the Philadelphia experiment, which is our main topic for tonight.
Well,
so
Doctor, we do, but it's at the bottom of the hour. I have to take a 60-second break for the radio stations.
Oh, okay.
And when we come back, we're going to talk about what happened October 28th, 1943. So stay tuned. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio.
Do you like the weird and unusual? Martin Eddington is the author of over 140 strange and unusual books. He's an engineer who has an analytical perspective and writes about his paranormal experiences and his research and conclusions on strange topics. Book categories include longevity, immortality, the paranormal, spirituality, aliens and UFOs, time and dimensions, ancient history, legendary beings, strange science, self-help, and much more. Learn the details about all these books by Martin Eddington and purchase them at his website, www.mkeddingtonbooks.com. That's MKETTINGTONBOOKS.com. These great, strange, and unusual Martin Eddington books are also available on Amazon. You are listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio Network, the home of Night Dreams Talk Radio, with Gary Anderson, syndicated worldwide. Paranormal Talk Radio, like you remember.
And we are back with Dr. Bruce Goldberg. And what happened that October?
Okay, well, first, let me give you the groupings or the categories we're going to be dealing with in details. We're going to talk about the Philadelphia experiment, Project Rainbow, as it's known as, and what technology was used in the Philadelphia experiment. We're going to talk about the role of 2 of the sailors, Ed and Duncan Cameron, and what they played in the project. We're going to talk about where in the future the USS Eldridge, which was the ship involved in the Philadelphia experiment, where it traveled to in the future, and this is going to be heavy. And then we're also going to deal with Nikola Tesla's role in the Philadelphia experiment. And lastly, how this project resulted in the death of Ian Fleming, the creator of James Bond. He was involved with this too. So this is going to be a lot of fun. So let's talk a little bit about the basis here. In August 12, 1943, just prior to sunrise, the Eldridge, the USS Eldridge, which was a Navy ship involved, with its 4 massive generators specially prepared for this experiment, were turned on to full power, and a strong electromagnetic field engulfed the ship. A brilliant flash of light was observed, and piercing sounds were heard, and the ship actually disappeared. Remember, this was an invisibility experiment, generated or created by Nikola Tesla. Einstein was involved too, by the way. This ship apparently had been magnetically pulled through time and space, and the first stop of this was in 1983 in the Montauk Project, which is, we're going to go through that separately. So this is a very, very interesting experience about traveling through the fifth dimension, a giant ship, okay? We're not talking about a subatomic particle here. Now, what has been observed over the years in my work with teleportation, because I deal with teleportation in my practice as well as out-of-body experience, is that there have been many cases where you see murky green fog surrounding an object like a ship or a car. It disappears, and then it reappears hundreds of miles away. That's a teleportation. So it's not just invisibility, it's actually teleporting, moving from one place to another. Now, the USS Eldridge teleported to Norfolk, Virginia, which was 250 miles away. It arrived 10 minutes earlier than when it left Philadelphia. So you see the time travel aspect here? It actually went backwards in time. All right? So the crew on the ship where it gets to be very complicated and very heavy. The crew suffered from burns. Some were fused into the deck on the molecular level, and they died. There was a lot of problems in the way this was resulted. But we're going to discuss how the Duncan and Edward Cameron were able to survive this and able to help this experiment. Now, what's interesting about the technical aspects of this was that there were 4 coils radiating electromagnetic power were used to create the field around the ship of invisibility. And they did achieve invisibility prior to the teleportation. Now, what's interesting about the coils, they were copper coils. There was a lot of copper that was needed for this experiment. Now, when I was a kid growing up and I was in junior high school, I used to collect pennies. Now, if any of those numismatic coin collectors out there know, in 1943, there were no copper pennies. There were steel pennies. Right. It was the only year in America's history where we didn't use copper to create pennies. Why? Because of the Eldridge, the Philadelphia experiment, and Project Rainbow. Isn't that interesting? So now, the Duncan and Edward Cameron did not suffer the fate and the trauma of their shipmates. They had been shielded in the generator room, which was surrounded by steel bulkheads. So the steel acted as a shield and protected them. As they witnessed things falling apart, they tried to shut off the generator and the transceivers, but were unsuccessful. As you can see, the reason why they were unsuccessful was because the Philadelphia experiment was controlled 40 years in the future, in 1983, by von Neumann in the Montauk Project. And we're going to go into that separately. Now, at the same time, this project in Montauk revealed that the Earth, like humans, has a certain biorhythm, and this was von Neumann's research. And these biorhythms peak out every 20 years on August 12th, which was why August 12th was chosen for the Philadelphia experiment. This coincided with 1983 to provide an additional aspect of this so that the Eldridge, it's almost like when somebody controls your computer, if you share a computer, think of that except a lot more in the fifth dimension. So this was very, very heavy here. So this was the Duncans now. What they did was, since they couldn't stop the generators or the transceivers, they jumped overboard, thinking that if they jump overboard, they're not going to wind up in the bulkheads. Well, what happened when they jumped overboard? They didn't hit the water. They went into a tunnel like a wormhole, and they went 40 years into the future in 1983. So what happened was that during the initial stages of this experiment, the Duncan and Edward Cameron were manning the controls below the deck, and as I told you, they were protected. But there was literally nothing else for them to do. Nobody advised them. They just, on their own, decided that they better just jump overboard and see if they can just end into the water and be saved in the water, which of course didn't happen because they were transported or teleported into a Montauk project on Long Island
Now,
to meet Dr. von Neumann.
Now, Doctor, too, that when they went to jump off the ship, they didn't see water. They saw
No,
darkness.
they went into a wormhole.
Yeah.
They went actually to a wormhole created by von Neumann in 1983 in the Montauk project on Long Island, on Montauk Point in Long Island.
Well, they didn't get wet.
No, they didn't get wet, but they got time traveled. Okay,
Yeah.
There's a difference here. They never hit the water. You know, it's like just think of it. If you enter into, do you know what a wormhole is? And let me explain it for your audience.
Well, you can explain
So,
it to the audience, yes.
When you deal with a black hole, this comes out of Einstein's theory of relativity, the special theory in 1905 and the general theory in 1915. So a black hole, you have a black hole and you have a white hole. If you enter into a black hole, you will go backwards in time. Okay. If you enter into a wormhole, you will do the opposite and go forward in time. Between the two is a connection, which we call a wormhole. It looks like it's kind of hard if your listeners just Google the term wormhole, they'll get that. Michel Kaku puts it in his books. It's all over the internet. You'll see examples and graphics to illustrate that. But it's a wormhole. It's just a connection between the white hole and the black hole. So in this case, they would have come out of the white hole because they went forward in time. If they went to the black hole part, they would go backwards in time. But they didn't decide it. It was, you might say, controlled by von Neumann to take them forward into 1983. The reason why von Neumann did that was not because he was a good Samaritan, was because he wanted to correct the errors of the generators and the transceivers so that all these sailors wouldn't die. And the project would have gone into a lot of problems with the government. They don't like killing people, you know, in their experiments. So von Neumann did that as a way of training the Camerons when they came into 1983, sending them back in time so they could actually correct the generators, and that's why the ship was seen in Norfolk, Virginia, and then went back to Philadelphia originally. So that's what this was, a vortex for time travel, which is what a wormhole is. Now, I'm a scientist, so I don't like to deal with science fiction, and this is not science fiction. If you deal with one of the most brilliant people in America today, is Kip Thorne from Caltech University here in Pasadena in Southern California. I live in Los Angeles, so it's not that far away. And Kip Thorne in 1988 wrote a very detailed scientific article for the Physical Review Letters, which is a technical article for physicists. He's an astrophysicist. And he detailed how an advanced civilization could enlarge a wormhole, which is normally microscopic, line it with exotic matter, and create a time machine. This is Kip Thorne's research. He did that because he was trying to corroborate the work of Carl Sagan when he wrote the novel Contact. He wanted to make it scientifically accurate, so that's why he wrote the article. That article was published 35 years ago. Nobody has contradicted the article, and many people tried. They can't. The math works. You can't argue math. So we know that wormholes exist. We know that theoretically you can create a time machine. The problem is you need exotic matter, which is negative mass and moves forward in time. It's the opposite of antimatter, and we can't do that yet. There are super colliders and supercomputers around the world, like in Switzerland and other parts of Europe and America too. We're trying to create exotic matter. We haven't done that yet, but if we do, we're going to have some of the elements for a time machine. So it's interesting. Now, what was interesting about the Philadelphia experiment from the origin, from the very beginning of the experiment, a few years prior to the 1943 issue here, Nikola Tesla was involved with the Project Rainbow, which is the Philadelphia experiment. But it was his intention to turn the battleship invisible. He knew he could do it, and he was right. The problem was he realized the effect it would have on the Navy sailors. He knew people would die. So he deliberately tried to sabotage the project in January of 1942, which is about a year and a half before the actual experiment. So he was kicked off the project, and he was replaced with Dr. John von Neumann. Now, Tesla had designed an analog system of invisibility, whereas von Neumann replaced it with a digital pulse system. And the digital pulse system was later used in the Montauk experiments, but again, it also resulted in the death of the sailors. So von Neumann wasn't in the same level of intelligence as Nikola Tesla. One of my favorite stories about Einstein. Einstein he hated quantum mechanics, so Einstein is not on my Christmas card list. But one time a reporter asked him in the early 1950s, a few years before he died in 1955, they asked him, they said, "Professor Einstein, what is it like to be the smartest man in the world?" And Einstein, in an unusual moment of humbleness, said, "I don't know. Why don't you ask Nikola Tesla?" Okay. All right. So the Philadelphia experiment is very interesting. The project, the Montauk project, goes even to more specific issues where they were working on this thing called the chair. They were trying to expand the psychic ability of people using very exotic techniques and generators, and they were trying to do all kinds of creepy things.
Well, weren't they using LSD and all that stuff too, besides generators and all this?
I don't know. I've heard that. I haven't seen that documented. That's more of the MK Ultra projects in Canada by the CIA, where they were using LSD in the 50s and 60s, and so here they were. Von Neumann was not into drugs; he was into energy. Right, so he was using energy procedures by this chair to create psychic abilities on people, and it worked. The problem was it created negative energy. You might say, I don't know if you're familiar with the movie Forbidden Planet from 1956. I think it was. It was a science
I just
fiction
watched
movie
it the other night. Yeah, my favorite movie.
Well, you know how they created the people, the Krons, whatever they called them, the creepy ETs? They created this energy being that destroyed their planet, basically, and killed all the Krons, right? Well, this was very similar, okay? I mean, this is what they did. They created, by using this energy for psychic development, they actually created an energy being, like I don't know how you call it, an energy zombie would be a better way of describing it. And this being went crazy and was killing the people on the Camp Hero in Montauk Project in Montauk, Long Island, and they had to eventually destroy the base. They sealed it up with concrete, and it just became something. Now they still think that the Montauk Project is still around, but not at Camp Hero.
Well, I want to intermix something in this. They also expect around that camp, all around there's bodies, a lot of bodies from their experiment.
Yeah, well, that's because of the experiment. They experiment with children. It got to be really creepy because there was a lot of pedophilia going on there. That project had a lot of problems. The government was really not thrilled what was going on there, not just because of the being they created, but they were doing creepy things with kids, and I mean, it was there was a lot of bodies. You're right, and that's one of the reasons why they didn't want the media and the public to find out about what was going on, because this is your tax dollars at work, and they get a little bit upset about things like that. So they just sealed the base off, and that base, I'm sure, isn't working. But whether they transferred the project to another part of Long Island or another city, I don't know. Maybe they went to the Bay Area. There's a lot of things going on here at the the San Francisco area that are creepy too. But so I just wanted to share that this was Tesla's involvement. He realized he was a good guy here because he realized that it was a problem. And you notice how they replaced his analog system with a digital system. It reminds me of direct current versus alternating current. Remember the war with Tesla and Edison,
Right.
And Tesla won that battle because we use alternating current, not direct current for our energy or electricity. So that was now. So let's talk a little bit about where did the USS Eldridge go? Now, I told you the first visit in the future was in 1983. That was manipulated by von Neumann with his magical generators and his chair and all the other things. But the USS Eldridge had other trips. Okay, so it went to other time eras other than what I just described. For example, it went into the year 2137, where the Camerons, where Ed and Duncan Cameron were treated for radiation burns from their little trip through the wormhole. Remember, they didn't have exotic matter to line it, so they got radiation burns. It also went to the year 2749, where the Camerons observed anti-gravity technology floating cities above the Earth people were like drones, mindless drones controlled by artificial intelligence machines. It was a lot of problems. It was not a happy camper. All right. And then it also went to Great Salt Lake City, Utah in the year 2043, and the Imperial Reservoir in California in the year 2005, and in Sebago Lake in Maine in 1997. And there is so those are those are pretty heavy trips. We're talking about going into the future by 1,000, 1,500 years or more. Okay, you got that. It's a lot of it's a time machine all over again. Now, what's interesting from my research, and this is what I put in my Time Travels from Our Future book, I don't know anyone that's ever reported this. I found this out by some Picayune research about an old newspaper thing. In the year, remember what I told you about every 20 years the Earth's biorhythms is relevant here? So you see 1943 to 1983, that's 40 years, 20 times 2. Well, there was a case that was reported in July of 1904 in Philadelphia. A ship called the Mohegan reportedly experienced unusual gray cloud that appeared to attach itself to the hull and created unexplainable electrical effects, such as uncontrollable spinning of the compass needles and the magnetization of metal objects on board. In fact, the ship actually disappeared for a few minutes and was observed. All right. Well, you say, and then of course he came back and everything was fine. Now, there were a series of violent electrical storms that were noted in Philadelphia at that time, but that wouldn't explain it. So what my theory is, if you look at the year 1904, that's 39 years before 1943. That's almost exactly the 40-year range for the USS Eldridge. So I think what happened was where the Eldridge went back in time and that fog was created by it, or it sent in energy from the coils, maybe it entered into a black hole rather than a white hole, so the energy went backwards in time by 39 years and caused that the Mohegan to disappear for a few minutes. And that was cited by people, and it was reported in the local papers, but nobody talks about it because they thought it was weird. No, but this is 1904, This is before any kind of science fiction, before ETs, UFOs, whatever. And they were very conservative. And I guess they figured that we'll report it, but we're not going to go. The government didn't do anything about it. At least they didn't publish anything about it. So, but that was an interesting aspect of the 39-year range. Okay, so it gets to be a little heavy here. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what I alluded to earlier, and that is the issue of James Bond and Ian Fleming. Now, Ian Fleming was a former intelligence agent for the British Secret Service during World War II. That's how he got the information to write the Bond books. So he had first-hand knowledge. In fact, he had so much knowledge that, and I read all his books, he wrote 13 novels, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. The British government almost prosecuted him for espionage because he was revealing too much of the British intelligence operations during World War II. Of course, his book did not occur during World War II. They took place in the 50s and early 60s. But anyway, he explained a lot of the British mentality about their intelligence. Anyway, one of his good friends, he was doing a lot of research on the Kennedy assassination in August of 1964. Remember the date, August, okay? And he was also dealing with the Philadelphia experiment. One of his good friends was a man named Ivan T. Sanderson, who was a biologist, but a former British intelligence agent, too. So understand they were colleagues. So he and was going to meet with Ivan T. Sanderson to compare their notes and to do an expose on both the Philadelphia experiment and the Kennedy assassination. Now, they were corresponding to each other, okay, and they were setting up a meeting. This is what happened. On August 12th, look at the date, 1964, Ian Fleming died of a so-called heart attack prior to his meeting with Ivan Sanderson. Did that sound like maybe somebody had something to do with him? You can always create a heart attack with drugs. I have an undergraduate degree in biochemistry. I can tell you it's not difficult to do. Just ask Vladimir Putin, okay?
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
He
I
died
get a lot of his friends.
He died in his home in Jamaica on August 12, 1964. Yes, he was in his 60s. Yes, he was a drinker. And yes, he had previous heart problems. But, the date is a little bit suspicious. And the meeting with Ivan Sanderson, it would have been a couple of weeks later he was to meet with Sanderson. That, to me, I don't believe in coincidence. That's way too much convenience for the government, the American government, more so than the British, to knock them off. The CIA has that would be a piece of cake for the CIA. So that would be the origin or the reason why I feel that Ian Fleming was killed by the CIA. Remember, they killed Kennedy, right, using the mafia. So Ian Fleming did not have the same reputation as a president of the United States. Wouldn't be difficult to do, but that's the connection with Ian Fleming. So this becomes really kind of heavy here. It's unfortunate because I love brilliant technology. I just don't like the fact that it's being used negatively. That's why Tesla did not get involved. He simply tried to sabotage the project. I'm surprised he wasn't arrested for that. They didn't arrest him, but he was too popular because the guy was a star, right? Guy gave us alternating current, but they did kick him off, and they, in fact, when Nikola Tesla died, if you ever follow his biography, he lived in this apartment in New York City. And he was like 85 years old or whatever. They don't even think he died. There's also a conspiracy theory that he was taken to England. But anyway, in his apartment in New York City, his papers were absconded by the government, not released. They didn't give them to his heirs because he had a family, and he put in his will that his books and papers would be given to his relatives, whatever. No, the government just took it, and we don't know what happened to it.
Well, they claim they don't. They don't, Doctor. They claim they don't know.
They probably used it, I'm sure, but they wouldn't give him credit for it, okay? So my point is that why would the government do that, If he was just a guy, if he was a madman, if he was creepy, because he was a germphobe, and he used to raise pigeons, on the roof of his New York City apartment building. Okay, fine. So what, okay? The guy was brilliant. Look at the inventors. He came up with free energy, right? Westinghouse and J.P. Morgan didn't like that, but he patented a free energy device in Colorado in like 1903. All right, so you can look it up. It's a patent. It's a public record. So this guy was brilliant, but they stole his work, and they wouldn't give him credit for it. In fact, I'll tell you what happened. When I was in school, I remember in the 1960s, I was in junior high school, and then in high school in the mid-60s. Okay, so when I studied history, the invention of radio. When you think of radio, who do you think invented radio? Who gets credit for radio?
Well, Marconi, but he's not the one that invented
Marconi.
it. Yeah, but he's not the one that invented it.
It was Tesla.
Yeah, it was Tesla.
It was Tesla. He stole it. Let me just calm down. Let me explain. I'll give you a fact sheet. You can check it out. It's public record. He stole it from Tesla. In 1960, the Supreme Court gave Tesla the patent, not Marconi. But if you read history books today, they don't change the literature. They still give Marconi the credit. Tesla developed radio.
Oh, yeah.
Period. The Supreme Court ruled on it, okay? There's no higher court in this country, all right? But nobody knows about that unless you do your homework. So, again, Tesla was screwed by Westinghouse, by J.P. Morgan, by the government, so many ways. He was brilliant, but they were afraid of him. So let me tell you something about Tesla. Tesla discovered anti-gravity. He discovered a lot of free energy devices. So he discovered what we would call the secrets of the universe. So you know what the secrets of the universe that Tesla described in his papers that he did publish and that we do have records of? He said, if you want to understand the secrets of the universe, you have to understand three things: energy, frequency, and vibration. If you understand those three concepts, you can do anything. Now, this is why the government was afraid of Tesla. Tesla was not a maniac. He was not a madman. He was not an anarchist, okay? He was a scientist. He was a hard-nosed scientist. So he developed a device the size of a transistor radio, maybe 3 inches by 2 inches. He could put that device on the side of the Empire State Building in New York City, and with the use of frequency, vibration, and energy, he could bring the building down. That's how powerful these techniques are. And the government did not like that. Because he was afraid, they were afraid he would give it to a foreign government, I'm sure. They know he was harmless, but maybe the Russians weren't, the Soviet Union in those days, things like that, or the Chinese, whatever. So, but Nikola Tesla is by far the greatest mind in the last 150 years, and very possibly, other than Da Vinci, the greatest mind in history. Einstein couldn't carry his water. Well, Einstein was a genius, but Tesla was smarter. And Again, we owe a lot to Tesla, even though he never got credit for things. He was a lousy businessman. They took advantage of him financially and politically and academically, but he was the dude. So that's the basis of the Philadelphia experiment. By the way, an interesting aspect of the Philadelphia experiment was that I don't know if you know who the late Stan Friedman was.
Yes, I certainly do.
Okay, Stan Friedman was a professor. He was a nuclear physicist from Hayward, California, and he had speculated that the reason that alien intelligence, and we're talking about extraterrestrials now, may have been attracted to the Philadelphia experiment, and there's a lot of evidence about that, by the way, that it was monitored by ETs, might be because of large concentrations of electromagnetic energy that was produced by the experiment. They call that oversplash in the field. That was investigated by a number of other cases in which UFOs has reportedly appeared in uninvited responses to electromagnetic experimentation. So if aliens are observing our world, they would be likely to have a functional electromagnetic map. When bright spots appear on that, just like we can register people who have guns or people who are using a lot of energy for whatever they're doing, nuclear reactors, for example, things like that, that would be on the grid. And there had been UFO observations on things like nuclear reactors and on things like the Philadelphia experiment, or wherever the government is using high energy concentrations. The HARP project, for example, is another example, and that's a pretty nasty one, by the way. But, there are other examples. So I don't think it's a coincidence. Again, I don't believe in coincidence that when you create a lot of energy, electromagnetic radiation, which is the most common radiation in the universe, it's harmless, by the way. This signal on this podcast is electromagnetic. So is TV, radio, cell phones, computers, all electromagnetic. So when you do that, ETs, if it's in high concentrations now, they're not going to care about this interview, but they would care about the Philadelphia experiment.
Oh, they would. Now, Doctor, we need to take a break. This is about 4.5 minutes long. When we come back, people want to know what actually happened on that ship. And, we need to go on about people being encased and part of the decking, the bulkheads and all that. So we'll be back with the doctor right after this. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio. Check out our website at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com. We'll be right back, so stay tuned.
To your heart, I have been lost for all of this time. Take me to your heart, where it is safe. You know I will not let you down. Take me to your heart. I need to calm down. To your heart, I need to tell you how much I have missed you so. I feel cold. I need to get warm, baby. Feeling cold in my soul. Where are you now? be how much I have missed your heart. Take me to your heart. Give me doors of your soul. Give me the love I need. I know that you have missed me.
Dignity for deeply forgetful people. How caregivers can meet the challenges of Alzheimer's disease by Stephen G. Post. How do we approach a deeply forgetful loved one so as to notice and affirm their continuing self-identity? For 3 decades, Stephen G. Post has worked around the world encouraging caregivers to become more aware of and find renewed hope in surprising expressions of selfhood, despite the challenges of cognitive decline. His books can be purchased from his website, www.stephengpost.com, on Amazon, or at your favorite bookstore. That's www.stephengpost.com. Order your copy today. Do you remember how great paranormal talk radio was in the 80s and 90s? Night Dreams Talk Radio brings back to you talk radio like you remember, with your host, Gary Anderson, broadcasting to you live from his secret compound deep in the great Northwest. Now, here's Gary.
And here I am. Well, Doctor, we are back. A lot of people, there's a lot, what is rumor, what is fact, what is maybe about the ship, that happened. Whatever it happened on that ship, I tell you, it had to be torture for a lot of those crew members, the way they succumbed to.
Again, it was more than torture. It was actually death for a number of the things. Now, this is the interesting aspect of this. So originally, let me show you where there's a happy ending to this. When I say reasonably happy, okay? Originally there was like 128 sailors that were killed. Some of them only a few of them were buried into the bulkhead of the ship. Others would just die of radiation. Remember, there's a lot of radiation involved. All right, so when von Neumann, and I'll give him credit for this, okay, not my favorite guy in history, but when von Neumann did the Montauk project aspect of pulling them into the wormhole when they jumped over ship and they pulled them from 1943 to 1983, what he did was he trained them to correct the generator, meaning that to turn it off, as well as the transceivers. And by doing that, they saved the life of many of the sailors. I think eventually only about 6 or 8 of the sailors actually wound up dying rather than 128. So von Neumann, giving him credit for it, he was responsible for cutting the death total by a significant amount. He's still a creepy guy, but he was also a megalomaniac. He was a problem. He was a real problem. But a brilliant scientist, but not as brilliant as Tesla. But again, so that was Neumann's, you might say, to his credit.
Oh, yeah, but
he did cut the death toll.
Now, Al, many times my friend was Art Bell, and we were pretty good friends, and we would talk about some of his guests. When Al Buick was on, he was saying that he was teleported back to turn off the equipment on that ship. Otherwise, we might not be talking right now. That's how bad it was and how critical it was.
All right. So the late Al Bielek, I met him. I was on a show called The Conspiracy Zone. It was a cable show on TNN. And I was not impressed with him because for lots of reasons. First, he got involved with the Philadelphia experiment after watching the 1988 HBO movie. So I got a problem with that. Is that the reason why you got memories here? But more importantly than that, and I'm not trying to knock him, I'm just giving the facts here because I'm a scientist. I don't play the game of I'm not some groupie here. Is that he supposedly was shrunk back into a different body. I mean, this got really creepy. It got really heavy. And if you read the details of Bielek about what he's saying, he was, his soul was transformed from one body to another so that it gets complicated, okay? And I got a problem with that because to me, I'm a scientist. I have a medical degree. And, I realize I deal with metaphysics. Yes, I do. And I'm very happy with that. But there are certain things where I draw the line, the limit, and that's one of them. Transferring the soul by the government into a different body is something I need to see that to make that to agree with it, and I don't agree with it, and that's a problem. Plus, he also, he made his money by going to all the conferences and doing his thing and milking as much as he could. But his story does have a lot of holes in it. So I'm not concerned about him. I'm more interested in Ed and Duncan Cameron. Those were documented. Those were real people. And, of course, Ed Bielek would supposedly be the Ed Cameron, So I got a problem with that. But the actual Camerons themselves, just them as human beings, they were very relevant because they definitely helped to create or to knock off the generators and to keep the project so that it would keep the death toll to a minimum. So that's where I have a much better philosophy, you might say. According to Bielek, they said they stripped him of his memories. They age regressed him to the size of a 9-month-old infant, physically shipped him into the past, into the Bielek family, where he occupied now the Bielek body to become Al Bielek, and transformed him into eventually the 37-year-old Edward Cameron into that of the baby. That's the problem I have. So, people can argue with me, but I got a problem with that. The brainwashing, the soul transfer, it's a problem. But again, the work of the Ed and Duncan Cameron are great. I just take them as an individual.
Now, here's the other thing.
A whole lot about
could this whole
what now?
Could this whole thing about the Eldridge, could that have been folklore? Because also at the same time, this was supposed to be going on.
Bielek. Nobody else documented that. We get all this information from him.
Yeah.
He's it. He's the one person who told the story. Nobody else documented this at all. By the way, don't you think the government would have had? Don't you think von Neumann would have known about this? I mean, the whole Montel project would have known about this. They were the ones that supposedly did this. Now, I realize that they're paranoid freaks, just like the Pentagon. They don't want to acknowledge ETs. I got all that. But all the information that we get comes from one source of a psychologically questionable person. That is not good credibility. It really isn't. It would be like going into an insane asylum and asking them to solve Einstein's, his force field equations. Okay, it doesn't work that way. But anyway, so I want to forget about Al Bielek, the late Al Bielek. I would rather deal with the Camerons and von Neumann and Nikola Tesla, and what happened with the Philadelphia experiment. By the way, the purpose of the Philadelphia experiment. Now, let me show you what some of the skeptics will bring up, and let me try to deflate some of the arguments. They're going to say, "Hey, the USS Eldridge was in New York City. Where was it? It wasn't Manhattan. It was one of the boroughs. It was Brooklyn. It was in the Brooklyn Naval Yard, and that's true. But here's the problem with that. There were 2 USS Eldridges that have been documented. One was kept in the Brooklyn Naval Yard, and one was in Philadelphia. So when people say, what about the one in Brooklyn Naval Yard? The one in Brooklyn Naval Yard had nothing to do with the Philadelphia experiment. It's not called the Brooklyn experiment. It's the Philadelphia experiment. So that's why you can eliminate that as a factor. And everything else, you understand the government is not going to tell you anything. You know, our government is very different than Mexico and South America. They have generals going on their local television and network television talking about UFO observations and this and that. Our government denies everything. This is like the Roswell, project. I mean, Roswell, New Mexico, 1947 in July. They deny everything. It's a water balloon. It's swamp gas. I mean, they really think we're stupid. Okay, and you got to understand the government always thinks you're stupid. Okay, that's why they gaslight you, and they think that most people are going to go along with the flow, which is true. Most people are like little robots, and they will listen to the media, which is in bed with the government, and you can't win that game. Look what's going on today. Look at the COVID issue. Wearing masks don't work. I'm a doctor. Okay, I tell you the research in America and Europe. The research is clear. The COVID virus, number one, came from Wuhan lab in China. Masks don't work. Social distancing doesn't work. Why does the government do it? Because they want to control you. They're trying to say, we say jump and you say how high. That's what the government has always done. All governments are evil. Unfortunately, somebody's got to run the government. I understand that, but you can't trust the government. They lie to you. What's the old expression? I'm from the government. I'm here to help you. One of the three lies in society, So you think the Philadelphia experiment with extraterrestrial involvement, with teleportation and all kinds of aspects, do you think the government's going to come clean on that? Do you think they're going to admit to killing Ian Fleming or killing John F. Kennedy or killing any? No, they're not going to do that. They're going to cover it up because they control the detail, the data. And if you try to get the data, it's espionage, and they execute you for that. You understand? It's a one horse show here, and we just have to uncover it as much as we can and bring it out. I don't expect all your audience to believe everything I'm saying. They're welcome to contact me. They can go to drbrucegoldberg.com, www. in front of that, and they can connect with me. They can read the Time Travelers from Our Future book or Exploring the Fifth Dimension and getting the free CD if they order it from my website. And they can do their own research. Don't even go with my research. Just go online and read Kip Thorne's article. Very technical. You have a math background for that. But it gives you the summaries of it, which anybody can understand. And there are other people, Michio Kaku, others. They'll document their stuff. Okay, I'm not the only one in the world. I'm reporting this, but what I'm reporting is giving you a very diluted version of what actually is out there. And remember, there's something called the Drake equation, where they did this computer estimate about how many planets are there in the solar system that would maintain life as we have it, intelligent life. And it's like about 100 million in the universe, okay? There's trillions of planets and billions of suns, but there's about 100 million planets that are equal to the Earth. Don't you think maybe one of those planets that have been around longer than we have, we've only been here for 4.5 billion years, the universe is at least 13.8 billion years, and actually that's not even true. They say that the universe cover to cover is 93 billion years across, light years across, which destroys the Big Bang theory, by the way, unless there were many Big Bangs. So my point is, you see what's going on here? This is a situation where you are dealing with extraterrestrials that are obviously been interacting with this planet for thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. And there was another interesting theory, which, again, your listeners can go online and do the research on it. I did a show with George Noory recently on this. One of the topics is we are living in a matrix. Forget about the Hollywood movies for a moment. Google, are we living in a matrix, and see what you get. This is hard science now. We're not talking about science fiction here. We're talking about people that are well respected in the astrophysicist and quantum physicist field. Okay?
Well, we could be,
Neil
but
deGrasse,
Tyson
is one of them.
Yeah, we've covered that a lot on this show, bringing different
Okay,
scientists
well, then
on.
I mean,
But
I don't know your show, so I'm glad you did that.
Well,
But
you
my
need to
point is
listen
that
to it.
it's-
Anyway,
Well,
Doctor.
I will now. I
yeah.
never heard of you before. I did now. This is the law of attraction in the universe. Okay.
Well-
Okay? So, but my point is that the matrix theory is not. It's a theory, but there's a lot of evidence for that. The idea of parallel universes, which I cover in my Exploring the Fifth Dimension book. If your listeners want to enter into a parallel universe, that book teaches you how to do it. Okay, and so does the CD. This is parallel universes are an example of why we're living in a matrix. It's an error in the computer system. The Mandela effect, so to speak. Parallel universes. That is not good for a matrix. That's an error. All right, so understand there are lots of errors in the matrix. Those are biggies, of course. But and if they read it on, if they listen to your show, but I would rather than read from scientific articles on this that are very corroborated and very well done, and the math is there, and there are very good experts that have written books on this. Scientists now, we're not talking about science fiction. So there is a reality with it. Okay, you can believe it or not, but there's a reality. It's so that's part of the field that I'm dealing with here, because you can label people a conspiracy person all you want. I'm sure 500 years ago, if you said the Earth was round and that we were not the center of the universe, they executed you. Just ask the Vatican about that, and Galileo.
Well,
Right?
you're
So,
absolutely right on that. Hey, our time is up, Doctor. And again, go ahead and tell people your website, how they can find your books again.
Sure. Okay, so the website is www.dr for doctor, brucegoldberg.com, GOLDBERG.com. And if they go to the homepage, there's a books link on there. You can scroll down to the bottom. There's an order form. If they order Exploring the Fifth Dimension or The Time Travelers from Our Future book, either of those two books, they pay for the book, of course, and then they will get a free CD called Fifth Dimensional Travel, which will take them out into the fifth dimension. And there's lots of articles on my site. I've got exercises. I do a webinar every second Sunday of the month. My next one, ironically enough, is going to be on how to meet a time traveler. Okay, that's going to be on February 12th. But every month I do a different topic, a metaphysical topic, a webinar from 12 to 2 Pacific time on Sunday, the second Sunday of the month, and everything is promoted on the website. There is about 35 articles on there. There are free exercises on there. So there's a lot of information on there, as well as all my 21 books. And then I have a YouTube channel which they can see 55 clips of me doing hypnosis with taking people into past, future lives, ET contacts, removing psychic attacks, regressing Jerry Springer into a past life. That's on there too. Okay, so there's a lot of good stuff on there. So the website is highly recommended. And but your listeners, they do have to do one thing though. They have to mention that they listen to the show for the offer. If they just order it without telling me who they are, then they don't get the free CD. But if they mention that they listen to this show, or mention your name if they want, I'll know who you are, then they will get the free CD with the book.
Well, thank you, Doctor, so much for coming on. And I want you to have a great weekend, will you?
Same to you, and I always appreciate energy, and I appreciate this interview, and like I say, it's been a pleasure, and you are on my Christmas card list.
Okay, my friend, you have a great weekend.
Take care now. Bye-bye.
We'll be right back, and we're going to talk a little bit more about what happened on that ship right after this break, so stay tuned.
Gonna take you for a ride in my brand new car. My brand new car, my brand new car. Gonna take you for a ride in my brand new car. My brand new car, my brand new car. Gonna show you how the shifter feels, 'cause tonight is the night that we make it real. Gonna take you for a ride in my brand new car. My brand new car, my brand new car. Gonna take you for a ride in my brand new car.
Coming to you live and covering all time like a glove. Here's on Night Dreams Talk Radio.
And we are back. JC, going a little bit more about what happened on that ship in October 28th of 1943. This is where it's confusing. I could not find a second record of that ship. But again, at the same time, on October 28th, 1943, it's documented it was in the harbor in New York.
Right. So if it was in New York, then was it the same ship, or did it really happen, or is there more to this? There's a lot of cloudy water there. And
well, I think too, folklore. When you think about it, all of a sudden becomes real. If you really think about it, the Navy, all the way from 1942, was experimenting because, like I told you before we went on the air, magnetic mines were attracted to the hulls of ships.
Yeah.
Okay, then the ship would explode, and then, it would go down. So the Navy was experimenting on two different ways One was to create massive transformers and electrify the hull of the ship, but that wasn't really practical. So the second way is they would hang wires off the side of the ship when they were in areas where they thought there were mines, and it's like a degaussing. Now, people might not know what degaussing is, but anybody, in their 60s maybe remember old color TVs of the 60s and 70s and early 80s that ever so often you had to get this round little coil that had a winding of, wire on it. It created a magnetic field, and you had to take that and go around the picture tube and then walk it away. That was degaussing. What the ship would do is would take that hull and degauss the hull so that the mines wouldn't be attracted to it.
Yeah, I'll tell you, there's a lot going on there. And I think you're right. It's kind of similar with the Battle of L.A. I think there's a lot of folklore there with that, too.
There's no record of it. If you go through the Battle of L.A., you have to also, and you research that, right at that time frame, a Japanese ship, a submarine, surfaced by a refinery, right? And they fired upon it. Then then out there, it just kind of escalated to the Battle of L.A.
Yeah.
There's no record of a UFO being shot down. And you have to remember, too, in that time frame, people were panicking because the Japanese were, sending balloons over that they intended what the balloon would do. They would get over the United States into the forest and create forest fires. We had all that going on. A lot of people were really worried about being attacked. So you can imagine people maybe overreacting. Here's a Japanese, submarine surfacing. And then, all hell broke loose where people overreacted.
Oh, very much so. Because you got to remember, too, that was shortly, not too long after Pearl Harbor.
Oh, yeah. Show me any real proof that the Battle of L.A. was a UFO. Nobody can do it. They can talk a big talk, but they can't prove anything.
Right. That's true.
I'm not trying to slam, somebody's, beliefs, but I'm just saying. But when you go back to the Eldridge, again, that ship had to be in 3 different places at the same time.
Yeah, that's strange. And the other thing too, some of the characters involved were kind of questionable. Especially the one guy that supposedly changed his name, one of the brothers there. There's a lot going on with that, too.
Well, also think about this. If it, back in the 40s, right, it would have leaked out if these people were encased into the hull of the ship, the deck of the ship, the bulkheads of a ship, half, in, and people, their arms are died going that way or dying. You don't think that would have hit the main newspaper at that time and it hit through the news? Yeah. It would have hit.
Yeah, somebody would have found one of the relatives or somebody, because you're talking a full crew. You're not, I'm sure there wasn't very many, but I'm sure there was
there was 120 some sailors or more on it. You're trying to tell me that word, what happened, wouldn't have got out? It would have took, that many years?
Like I say, yeah, definitely.
No, sure. It's called folklore. Again, I listened to Al on my friend's show quite a few times,
Me too.
And, he had electronic background, but, again, I have a massive electronic background. And, I've done a lot of research on this in the past, and I just don't really think it happened. Well, I really don't.
Let me ask you this. You've talked to Art about this. What did he feel about Al's theory?
Well, he said it was great entertainment. It brought a lot of listeners. And know what he said to me off the side?
Tell me. I knew he was going to say that.
That's what he said. He actually said poppycock.
Yeah, I figured so. Yeah. There's the other thing, too. If we had that technology using that at the ground floor and say 80 years ago, where's it at now?
Why aren't we having it on our ships right now? For we wouldn't be, have to worry about our aircraft carriers, our destroyers, and all that being attacked. Jets. It doesn't. If we had it then, we would have had and perfected it. Okay.
Yeah, and if you could transport things, imagine sending a spy in and putting that kind of technology on other people's nukes and make them disappear and they can't use them on you.
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
know, it's
I don't know
crazy.
the listeners out there. I'm just kind of curious, Kim, or Mother Scorpion, or even Ron out there. What do you think? Do you think this really happened on October 28th, 1943? I just don't buy it because there's no proof. But again, they were working on trying to deflect mines off of, ships for they wouldn't get sunk, mines being attracted to. So they were running generators and trying to degauss the hull of the ship for the mines wouldn't be attracted to it. I don't see that being in time travel. I don't think we had the technology in October 28th of 1943 to even, come on, time travel in 1943 with the technology we had then.
Well, here's the thing. If we had that technology to do that, why was we using big tubes and transistors and stuff? It's like, it doesn't make sense. It's like an advanced civilization on Star Trek still using flint loaders.
Yeah, well, as Al even mentioned, the whole ship was full of all these generators and coils that operated on different frequencies and and I remember listening to it. And again, because with my electronic background, there was many times I really enjoyed the show, okay,
Yeah.
because it was entertainment.
Right.
But having an electronic background and some of the stuff that Al Buick said, it was so much ridiculous. I just don't buy it. I just don't buy it. But, that lab, something did go on there because we've had a couple guests that talked about Montauk. And
yeah.
And they experimented on people and they also used drugs on people. And he swore up and down that there's a lot of bodies out there. And he can't get out there with ground penetration radar because even now it's a state park, but they won't let you go in there and do any research.
Yeah, we had Christopher Gaetano on. He filmed a year's research and a documentary on that, big, extensive. So yeah, there's something definitely happened there, but time travel there, I don't know, but definitely I think mind control, like you were saying, and some drugs used. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Well, what is our show going to be about on Sunday?
Oh, Sunday, we've got Rob Shelsky coming on. He's going to be talking about UFOs, what's going on in the field, disclosure, and some of the infighting between some of the ufologists out there today.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of it going on. I mean, I don't know. The more, I'm just to the point right now, I'm just hoping one lands, I really do. And I hope they eat brains of only politicians because I don't have any barbecue sauce in my fridge.
Well, if one of them gets out in a great big long cape and with, looks like Count Dracula says, "We're here to serve man," I'm running.
Hey, have you heard about the new zombie virus?
No, tell me more.
Tell you more. What do you want me to tell you? No, they have found a virus that literally can convert a person's brain into virtually a zombie. It destroys your whole intelligence level, and the only thing you have is the survival of wanting to eat. It's a parasite.
Yes. Yeah, I was just going to say, in the animal world and the insect world, there's parasites that turn other things into pretty much zombies, Gary.
Could you imagine? We've been watching Walking Dead, the Night of the Living Dead, the Dawn of the Living Dead, the Living Dead. And maybe one day we wake up and it's happening.
Yeah, if I see somebody scratch on my window saying brains, I'm like, oh no.
Well, how about if they scratch at your window and say balls, balls, balls?
I'm going to say, oh no.
How do you know it's going to be brains they want to eat?
Well, that's part of the folklore.
That's the whole point. Yes. I mean,
Folklore.
Come on. Folklore. Your opinion. Did you think that the ship vanished in October 28th, 1943? JC.
That's a hard pill to swallow, like I said just a few minutes ago, because that's some serious technology. But at the same time, those ships had the big tubes. You're in electronics, you know what I'm talking about. It just doesn't line up.
I don't even think they could have supplied with the generators. They had enough generation to do it. So I don't know. But you know what? This is going to go on no matter what, forever. It's part of folklore. And, you can believe it or disbelieve it. That's up to you. You can believe that the earth is flat. By the way, we do have a flat earther coming on, don't we?
We do. We have actually, I don't know if I should say his name, but yes, we do. And he's going to be coming on in March. As a matter of fact, he's kind of big in the flat earth world. So he's going to be listen, one day he woke up and he studied all this and he was converted. So we're going to
I'm going to get some suction shoes just in case we find out the earth is flat where I don't fall off.
Yeah, because supposedly we're just like a long flat thing, and the moon and all them things are just kind of up there, but not up there. They're like on the ceiling.
Yeah, they could be. Well, who knows? We could just be a program running, and some aliens, how they play games. Young people play games. Maybe that's what it is. Some alien kid is running a game, and we think that we're humans and living creatures when in fact we're nothing but this is a microchip.
Part of a simulation. And, also, I don't think the flat earthers believe that we went to the moon and stuff either, because how could we?
And don't forget the earth doesn't rotate.
No, it does not rotate. No, it's actually flat. It doesn't rotate. But you can't fall off the edge either.
I wonder if the inner core actually stopped, like some scientists are saying. It's either stopped or it's almost stopped. That is scary because they don't know if that's going to cause a pole switch. A magnetic flip. I don't know. Earthquakes, volcanoes going off.
Yeah, I got to tell you something. Our Earth's inner core, it's the size of Mars. So if that's a lot of inertia. If it happened to stop and, like you said, go in the other direction, that's hard to pill to swallow.
Yeah, but could the Earth go out of its orbit?
Well, do an experiment.
Could we be like Space 1999, where the moon went out of its orbit from the Earth?
You get a gyro. You know how it goes? It's all over the place with the inertia.
I don't know. But till Sunday, catch us live at 7 p.m. Linda, me, and JC will be on. We're going to be talking about UFOs. So, I hope you enjoy the show. If you haven't given it a thumbs up, please do. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do. Tell your friends about us. It's very important. It's very important. We need to get the numbers up on YouTube. So, everybody have a good one. We will catch you on the other side.